So first, I would like to welcome now our first guest, Luca. He's the founder at TripsCommunity. I had a pleasure of meeting Luca a while back, and we've done a podcast together and really interesting stuff that you're doing there at TripsCommunity, and as well as how hospitality can look into the Web3. But I will turn it over to you. The digital floor is yours.
All right. Hi, everyone. Let me share my screen. All right. You should see now the first slide. So I took from the subject of this meeting, which is the uncertain future of crypto and blockchain products, and I couldn't help myself and modifying the uncertain with inevitable, because this is my very firm belief. I mean, any crypto and blockchain future is not uncertain, is inevitable. And of course, I may be wrong, but that's my position. I'm going to try today to explain you why I have this position. And this is the question which basically opened the call. Is it worth getting into now as prices have taken such a hit? Well, you probably know my answer, which is yes. Getting into now, it has to be kind of defined. What does it mean to get into now? I will interpret this as getting into this industry, not from a trading point of view, not like buying now. Buying now, yeah, probably is a good idea, but we're not talking, I guess, here investment strategies, but more like business-wise, right? So this is almost 10 years ago. Is it May? Yeah, we are in 2023, January. This is like almost 10 years ago. And this is a conference about Bitcoin. The guy in suit and tie is Andreas Antonopoulos, an educator, one of the best educators in Bitcoin and blockchains in general. And as you can see, he has 4 people listening to him, and one of them is watching a smartphone. So was that a good moment to get in? You wouldn't say yes. You would say, well, it's just dead. Nobody's there. It's not interesting. All the attendees of the conference are somewhere else. Why would you get in now? And that's the first hint I'm giving you. If nobody is there, it's a good sign. If it's too crowded, it's a bad sign in general. And Bitcoin at the time was $129. It went up to over $60,000 a few years later, and it's about $20,000 now. Now, from a point of view of investment, of course, it was a good time to get in at the time. But price is more like a signal. It basically tells you how crowded it is, how many people there are. And if your decision is like a business decision, when do you want to get in? Do you want to get in when everybody else is there? When everybody's fighting for the same thing? Or do you want to get in when nobody is there? So I would say you want to get in before everybody else get in. So you have an advantage. And today in this bear market, of course, we are not back in 2013, but many people have left. And this is really, really, really good from a business perspective. Now, let me give you a very basic reading of what we're talking about, basically. So I like to divide the web into 3 epochs. The first epoch is the Web 1, which is like 95, 2000, and maybe 5, where most of the things we were doing online was reading. We couldn't really write anything. We could only read. And then Web 2 is the web we are in today, is read and write. So at a certain point, we were able to actually write stuff online. Facebook was a watershed moment in which people started actually writing stuff on the screen, and that stuff would actually go somewhere and people would read what they write. And that really changed the web completely. That's why we can define this as a completely different epoch. So what is Web 3? Web 3 is the web of the future, is the web connected to the blockchain. And in that interpretation, the blockchain, crypto, is just technologies which basically allow the web to grow, to change. And what is it? It's own. Why? Well, because you can own stuff on Web3 thanks to crypto. It's very easy to explain if you think about what do you actually own on the web today. And maybe the only answer is you own a domain name, because everything else you do not own. We do not own our Gmail account, our Facebook account, Instagram, Airbnb, nothing. Everything is there is like kind of rented, but we don't even rent it because we don't have a contract in which they guarantee that the rent can continue. Tomorrow morning, if you have, let's say, a Twitter account, you could wake up and the Twitter account is not there anymore. This is called deplatforming. So we do not own basically anything on Web2. In Web3, if you have NFTs or crypto or Bitcoin or whatever, you actually own it because nobody can take it away from you by deciding that you have to be deplatformed. So Web3 is really the web of owning, right? But it goes a bit deeper than that, right? Let's see it from the point of view of who is the character, the main character into the web. In Web 1, it was individuals, small websites. Maybe some of you remember that time. It was many, personal pages made by little people. Like, I mean, not little people in terms of how big we were, but like individuals, not even companies. Companies were not even there at the beginning, right? And Web 2 is today, if you have your little website, nobody's going to go there. Everything is on those platforms, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and everything else. So Web 2 is the web of corporations. What is Web 3? Who is going to be the main character of Web 3? Communities. Because now we can coordinate as communities, as big groups of people all over the world. Thanks to the new technology, thanks to cryptocurrencies and NFTs, we can coordinate. We can tokenize the public goods we create. So we can actually build communities which are bigger than corporations. And maybe you've heard about DAOs, so decentralized autonomous organizations. They are basically communities online, like forums with a treasury, okay? And this can really change many things. And the web of the future will be owned by communities and corporations and individuals, but we have this new entity, which is communities. Before, in Web 2, there were forums, there were Discord servers, but they couldn't actually own anything, right? And from another point of view, there's how you get into this web, right? Into Web 1, there was no login. Google at the beginning didn't have an account, right? You would just search for stuff, Google will spit out an answer, and there was no Google account. They didn't know it was you. Yeah, of course, they were tracking IPs and stuff, but there was no account. Today, everything is with an account. If you want persistence over, what you did today and what you do tomorrow, you need to get in with a login and password. And login and passwords are stored into the corporation servers. So again, if you have an Instagram account with 1,000 or 10,000 or 100,000 followers, your login and password is in Instagram servers. If they shut down your account, you lose all your followers and your account. So login and password. How does it work on Web3? Wallet login. What does it mean? Well, very simply, login and passwords are not in their servers, they are in your computer or on your smartphone. Because a wallet login is basically public key and private key, which is basically a login and a password, but you keep them. So nobody can take you away those things, which means now you have control of your identity. It may seem abstract, but is because it's very basic. It completely changes the relationship between us and the websites we use. Platforms like, again, the ones I mentioned, will be much, much less powerful in Web3. And we will be really sovereign individuals. We will own stuff. We will own our account and then everything which is attached on this account. For instance, if you have your listings, let's say you have a hotel or a vacation rental on Airbnb, your listings are connected to your wallet. They cannot be taken away as they can be taken away today in Airbnb. Same goes for your bookings. Same for your followers. And same for your reviews. Your reputation today is siloed in each different platform. So you have reviews in Booking, you have followers and likes in Facebook, you have reviews on Google Maps, etc. They are separated and they don't belong to you. With Web3, they will belong to you. So you're going to have all your reviews in every different website in your wallet, controlled by your wallet, and nobody can take them away from you. So, centralized and decentralized. You probably have heard these words a lot. Decentralized. Everything is about decentralization, but decentralization doesn't really mean much. It's not an end, it's a mean to have some features, right? If somebody tells you this thing is decentralized, you're not going to say, oh, it's cool because I want to have decentralized stuff. It doesn't really give you anything concrete. So let's see what decentralization actually means compared to centralization. First of all, if something is centralized, you have to trust the brand. You want to make a booking, you have to trust booking.com, right? If you don't have a centralized system, but you have a decentralized system, you're not trusting a brand, you're trusting the network and the code. Probably heard what happened with FTX. Big centralized exchange. We trusted FTX because it had all the signals of trust, and they ran away with the money. That's what happens with centralized systems. In DeFi, decentralized finance, you don't have to trust any person or any brand. You trust the code. How do you trust the code? You see that it's been running for a long time and nobody hacked it, and you know that it cannot be hacked after a certain time, or the percentage, the probability of hacking is really, really low. So you don't trust people, you trust code. And network, meaning the group of people, right? People can still, some contracts can still be changed if they are not completely immutable. But what you look at is different. It's not brand and people anymore, it's network and code. Now, when people tell you decentralized is better, what often they don't tell you is decentralized is much harder. It's easier to do a centralized exchange, a centralized booking platform, a centralized social network. It's much easier. It is harder to do it in a decentralized way. Why do we do harder? Well, we do harder because we want to be safer, okay? It is cheaper to run something centralized. It is much more expensive to run something decentralized. Why is like Ethereum network gas fees are so high sometimes? Well, because decentralized is expensive. It's much easier to run the same thing on a database. It's also slow. Why Bitcoin is so slow and why payments on Visa are so fast? Well, because decentralization is not only hard and expensive, it is also slow. Why do we do that then? If it's hard or expensive and slow and we have to trust networks we don't know and code we can't read, because it is much safer. When it is really decentralized, it is much safer. That's the whole idea. We do decentralize because we don't want to be racked. We don't want to lose our money. We don't want to trust people and brands, because people and brands can actually, betray your trust. We want something which works and we know we can count on it. And the internet itself is decentralized. That's why when we create a website on the internet, we don't worry that somebody will cancel our website. It's on a decentralized system, right? So to go a bit deeper into the centralization idea, and why am I talking about this? Because the question is it over for crypto? Is it over for blockchain? Because the prices are down? No, we need these more than ever. Institutions today, well, that's actually my reading, but you can have a different idea. But the institutions are getting weaker and they're crumbling. Governments, we don't trust governments as we used to. Platforms, we see what platforms do once they get too powerful. We see the deplatforming of Twitter of a US president, of the deplatforming of Airbnb of hosts, or Airbnb at the beginning of COVID not paying the hosts anymore simply because they could. We don't trust companies as we used to. And the same goes for organization. And certainly we don't trust mass media anymore as we used to before, right? So if institutions are crumbling because they have been co-opted, because now few people own them and control them. Right now we have the World Economic Forum going on, which is even a bigger institution which seems to control to a really worrying level government, or at least government officials, right? if these things are actually crumbling, how do we solve the problem? Do we all go on our little island in the citadel, as many Bitcoin maxis want, like we completely isolate from everything else? Or do we coalesce as people and we make strong networks, right? We make DAOs, communities, associations, groups, decentralized social networks. What do we do? Well, my hope is that networks, thanks to crypto, thanks to blockchains, can solve the problem that our institutions are crumbling, right? So that's why we need decentralization. We need to replace what took us until here from the past, where we were disorganized and we had wars and there were no institutions. We built institutions that took us until here. They are being co-opted. Now we need different ways to coordinate, and these are networks based on blockchain and crypto. I think I'm done already. I hope this was clear, and then there's time for questions, I guess, or maybe later in the panel. Thank you.